What's good, Chaotic Nation? It's your boy Chaos here, and I'm bringing you a quick little theory video today to go over a thing that, I've thought about quite some time. I honestly have no notes for this video, so whatever I'm saying just comes straight off the top of my head based on the information that I have, so I might not be 100% accurate with all my information and all the things I'm pointing out. Feel free to let me know in the comments if I'm missing something. Love to have your thoughts and opinions on that, but I wanted to go to a conversation or a thought that I've had since I started playing Pokemon, which my first games were Fire Red and Leaf Green. I started out playing Kanto like most people did, but always the weird thing at the end of the game is who is the champion, because you get to the league and you beat Lance and he's like, well, you've done it, you become the champion of the league, but there's one more other person for you to fight, which then becomes your champion. And I've done a theory about how Blue isn't actually a champion. He doesn't technically get the role because he never was entered into the Hall of Fame. If I'm going to follow that video, I think we have to agree that Blue never actually became champion, and that's canon, and I'm going to stick with that perspective. Now, Blue could have become champion at some point in time between the events of, Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, between the 2-year time period that's there. Blue could have become champion at some point in time in that time frame. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I think for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that Blue never actually became the Pokemon champion, because as soon as he beat Lance, Red was right behind him, Red beat him, and by the time Professor Oak got there, Oak was the one who initiated Red into the Hall of Fame as the champion, and Blue was not even recognized in that role. Blue does not go with you into the room to become champion, therefore Blue never actually becomes champion. Which goes to question, who becomes the champion after Red leaves? So there's this 2-period... Who becomes the champion after Red leaves? There's this 2-year time gap between the events of Kanto and Johto games that we just don't know who actually is the champion. Perhaps Red's the champion this whole time and comes back and challenges trainers, or perhaps, Lance picked it up earlier, or maybe there was some sort of intermediate champion that happened during these events. So we really got to think about who is that champion in that 2-period time, how long are they a champion for, and what shifted to let Lance become the champion. I think a really interesting part about this theory, and what actually sparked my idea for this, is what Lance says, that you could be the champion if you beat Lance. Therefore, meaning the league at that point did not have a champion. You went through the first 4 Elite Four members, you got to Lance, and if you beat Lance, you became champion. But Lance himself, at that point in time, was only an Elite Four member, not a champion of the region. Technically, Blue was the champion that you had to fight at the end of the game, but Blue never actually was the champion because he didn't go through the Hall of Fame process. So, at the point in time that you're playing through Kanto, there is no champion. Now, we could believe that the last champion we knew of was Professor Oak. At one point in time, he was the champion of the region, and maybe he decided to step back from this role because the war was happening. We do have all this talk about a war going on in Kanto, which is why we don't see a lot of adult males in the region, which could also explain that the champion was somebody who fought in the war and is no longer there, because he was out serving the Kanto region in whatever war that they were fighting. It does make sense that people like Surge, who was a lieutenant in the army, survived, or Bruno, who obviously is a pretty buff guy, probably survived too. Maybe this is the reason why the fighting dojo is not a gym anymore, or the reason why there isn't a champion in the first place, because the champion perished in the war that was happening. So we have this gap before you even get to the first champion spot in your journey of playing Pokemon. There's no champion at the time that the Kanto events happen. Therefore, Blue technically is the champion that you fight, but he doesn't actually have the status of the champion because he wasn't recognized in the Hall of Fame. Now, all that being said, it brings me back to an idea of, if Lance is the champion, and you have to be a champion to go into the Hall of Fame to record somebody else, why didn't Lance just take Blue into the room to make him champion? You see, what I'm saying here is Lance actually wasn't the champion of the Kanto or Johto region until after the events of Red and Blue happened. So therefore, he couldn't take Blue in. He notified Professor Oak as soon as Blue beat him, and Oak comes to initiate Blue into the championship club, which is the Hall of Fame. Which is why when he gets there and is disappointed in Blue for losing to his first challenger as champion, he didn't even have the title. He doesn't even get the title because Blue doesn't come with you into the room. It's just you and Oak. So Blue never actually becomes champion. But also, Lance wasn't the champion at this point in time. Lance only became champion after the events of Red and Blue happened. Meaning, at some point in time, Lance either challenged Red and beat Red and took over the spot, or Red left another vacancy and Lance assumed the position of champion after defeating the Elite Four. I like the idea that Lance actually just beat the Elite Four. There was a time period because Red was interested in completing the Pokédex that he travels to Johto, he travels to find Mew. There's a lot of theories about Red looking for Mew as the 151st Pokemon at the end of his journey, because at the time he becomes champion, we know there's a little bit of an arc. If you watch Pokemon Origins, there's a little bit of an arc where Red's trying to complete the Pokédex. He hasn't finished it by the time he becomes champion, but he gets access to go to Cerulean Cave to find Mewtwo for the last Dex entry he needs. And at the end of that, we see a little cutscene with Mew showing up that Red still has to find a Pokemon. So even after he's caught all 150 Pokemon, he still has to find Mew, and that leads him to another region, which leads him to complete the Pokédex. So Red's goal is to complete the Pokédex. It's not to become champion. And so after a certain period of time, after Red has vacated the seat for a period of some time, it just becomes open again, I would assume. Usually when you have a structure like this and your leader is gone for whatever reason, if they can't physically do the abilities of their position, or if they just decide to stop doing the work, somebody has to pick that up within the organization, and it makes sense for Lance to be that person. He is the strongest Elite Four member. He's the strongest Elite Four member, but he also probably was responsible for recruiting some of the people that we see replace the Elite Four. Obviously, Agatha gets old and she doesn't do the league anymore, and she has somebody step in for her, and Lance could be responsible for bringing on Will or bringing in Koga from the league to fill out these spots that are available, as other Elite Four members maybe got tired of being Elite Four members after they tried to become the champion and they lost to Lance. I think like that's a really cool story arc, that Lance just beat all the other Elite Four members and are like, well, there's no point in us still doing this, we're done. Bruno, maybe with his fighting spirit, because he's a fighting type trainer, decides to be like, well, I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna still be a part of this league. I still want to be a part of the league. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. So Bruno's really in it for the right reasons, but Agatha leaves because she didn't win. Lorelai's gone. She didn't win. At that point in time, Oak recognizes Lance as the new champion, takes him into the Hall of Fame. He becomes champion. Red is no longer the champion because Red has left the position vacant for so many years. Now, I'm not saying like this is because there's a need of trainers who are challenging the league. Sure, there was probably somebody who came and challenged, and Red probably did that for a while, but he got interested in studying Johto, which is why he's on Mount Silver, looking to complete the Pokédex with rare Pokemon that you can only find there. I have a really cool theory that Birdkeeper Toby did, that talks about Mew being on Mount Silver, and that's why Red's there. So I'll put a link to that in the description of this video, so that way you guys can check that out and see why Red might have left his post vacant for that period of time. But it's obvious at some point there needed to be a new champion of the league, and the person who does that is Lance. He takes over. I don't think there's really time for somebody else to step in. I mean, obviously somebody could have beat Red, but Red is marketed as an undefeated trainer, and for all we know, Red never loses a Pokemon battle except to Gold. And even that, except to Gold, is never confirmed. It's only done because Red is the final boss of the Johto games that Gold beats him. But I think every iteration of the anime never shows Gold or Red winning that fight. So we don't know who actually won. At this point, we just assume that Red was never defeated. Of course, if you're taking other stories like Origins into account, Red did lose a couple of times. At this point, we know them both as undefeated, because if we're taking game lore, they both... I mean, I guess at that point, if you're taking game lore, Gold wins, but we don't know Red to lose to anybody else in his time as a trainer. There's no documented history of it, and there's no reason for Red to leave other than really to complete the Pokédex. It's his only motivation. So it doesn't make sense that somebody would have beat Red. I don't think Lance would have beat Red because his team is very similar to the same team he uses as the Elite Four member as he does as the champion. So I don't think his strategy would have gotten different that would have allowed him to become the champion over Red. So I think Red would have had to leave the position, step down, or just leave it vacant for a while. And Lance decided to step up, and Oak agreed. Because Oak is, again, the person who shows you into the champion room when you beat the Johto games, too. It'd be cool to see Lance go in there with you, but, I mean, I guess it's not a required thing. And I mean, I guess that's even a thing. Does Lance ever actually become the champion, or is he just kind of filling that role like Blue was at that point in time? Because we have no idea what happened to Red. It's never said that Lance officially beat Red or Lance took over for Red. He just happens to be in the champion room as the champion of the league. So maybe Lance doesn't even become a Pokemon League champion. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I thought this was a really cool idea and a really cool concept, because we always talk about Blue and we always talk about Red in this situation, but we never talk about Lance or Professor Oak. Well, I guess a little bit Professor Oak, but we never talk about Lance. Lance is part of this story, and between these 4 characters, who is champion when, who actually is the champion, who actually has the status of champion, is a really cool concept, a really cool theory. Of course, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, and I look forward to making more videos like this in the future. So if you want to see more, go down below, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel for more content from me. You can also check me out on my other social media. They are found in the description down below, and I am on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Discord, and I have another YouTube channel, Invisible Corporations, where I don't do Pokemon content. There is Pokemon content on the channel, but I'm not doing it. I do other variety content, so please go check that out. I would appreciate that. And of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know if you have something you want me to discuss or go over. I'm really interested in these kinds of things. Pokemon lore is one of the big reasons why I started making content in the first place, so it's nice to get back to that, and I hope you have enjoyed watching. So thank you for watching, and until next time, my name's Chaos. I'm signing off. Stay safe, and as always,